I'm Mark Callie and Mr. Saltwater Tank, coming to you on behalf of SaltwaterAquarium.com. And today I'm taking a first look at the Illumagic X4 LED light. Now, I opened this thing out of the box, took a quick once over. Here's my initial reactions. First, I looked at it and said, clusters, not panels. A lot of LED companies now are rolling into a panel design. They are sticking with the clusters. So we've got 4 clusters of LEDs, 2 different layouts of the clusters. You actually can change these out, they say. You can get a different spectrum. As of the making of this video, they have one spectrum really that's clearly geared for reef tanks, and they have another one that's for freshwater. They have a third one that they say is coming, but as of the making of this video, I didn't see where you could purchase that different cluster. So if you like to change things, you can swap out these clusters. Each of these clusters has different mix of LEDs, and then the thing that's something that jumped out at me is they have this what kind of looks like a diffuser, like a lens, right on the LEDs. This is actually made of silicone, and Illumagic says that there's a lifetime warranty on this thing. It's not going to brown out, it's not going to burn. So that was interesting. I'll be interested to see what the light is like. How flat is this light, given that it's coming out of 4 different clusters as opposed to a panel? I'll cover that once I put it over the tank. The other thing that jumped out at me is there are 2 fans on the top of the fixture. It pulls air in through the sides, kicks it out through the top. So it is actively cooled. We'll see if the fans are a bother. I really don't have ever had an issue with LED fixtures with the fans. Clients saying they're loud, because nearly all my tanks, they're inside a canopy where you're not going to hear this thing unless it gets cranked up super high. And if that's the case, you're probably driving your lights too much, because a lot of times you don't need to run these things at 100% intensity. Something else that I like about it so far, the cord, it's about 10 feet long, and the plug is far away from the fixture. Sometimes the plug is right next to the fixture, which I'm not a fan of. I want to get this plug away from the water. I like that we've got 10-foot length here. It's going to be plenty of length for mostly everyone to put the fixture over their tank and then run this off to the driver. Now, this is something else that jumped out at me when I opened the box. It comes with a Meanwell driver. If you don't know the Meanwell name, this is a very respected name in power supplies. So this bad boy comes with the Meanwell driver, which I like. I have less concerns about this. Really no concerns about this catching on fire, because it's not cheap stuff made overseas. With any lighting fixture, how do you get this thing over your tank? A couple different options. There's a hanging kit. There is an arm type kit that mounts on the back of your tank. And then there's another arm kind of with a rail where you can put multiple of these down the length of your tank. All right, so there's the hardware side of the Illumagic X4. Of course, this thing's gonna have a software side. There's an app. Let me get this thing set up, and let's see how easy it is to set up and to program, see what I think about the app. Before I dive into programming the X4, I want to point out the Reef Realism feature, which is a very unique feature of the software. The way it works is like this. You choose a reef from anywhere around the world. They have famous reefs programmed into the app. Cairns, Australia is what I chose, because that's right next to the Great Barrier Reef. There's also Sarong, which is near Raja Ampat. So all these famous reefs from all around the world. You pick one, and then you apply that to your schedule. Now what this does is it follows the weather conditions on that reef of that day and applies it to your schedule. Then some of you might say, well, isn't just like cloudy and thunderstorm effect the same? Kind of, but with Reef Realism, it applies it throughout your whole schedule throughout the day based on real live weather conditions. You're not just saying from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, make it have a chance of rain, or make it partly cloudy, and then the rest of your schedule is off. So then if you wanted thunderstorms later in the day, you got to set this point to be just thunderstorms. None of that. Reef Realism says, here's the weather conditions on the reef that you chose, applies it to your whole schedule automatically, and then it adjusts it. So if it's sunny today in Cairns, my reef's going to be sunny. If it's overcast, my reef is going to be overcast. Sometimes these changes are subtle, so if you enable it, keep that in mind. Let's be clear about this. This is nerd reef junkie level stuff. Don't think that if you turn it on, then all of a sudden your reef's going to get 30% better and your corals are going to grow all this faster. It's a cool little feature. I thought it was unique, so I had to note it.
The initial setup of the X4 is straightforward. Create an account, and the app will then guide you to find the light and get on your Wi-Fi network. Note that 5 GHz networks aren't supported, so if your device can't find the light, the issue may be in your Wi-Fi settings. Once the light is set up, you can create your own schedule, use DeLewis schedules, or schedules that other users have made public. For the new or intermediate hobbyists who aren't familiar with spectrograph and intensity, there's no presets for 5, 10, 14, or 20K spectrums, which are great guidelines that are known to work. Furthermore, setting the overall intensity is done by dialing up or down the individual channels of the LEDs, which will then change the spectrum. If you don't know what you're doing, you're just flying blind and turning dials. Now there are two preloaded settings labeled as easy. When you click on the mixed reef setting, for example, beast mode, which pushes extra power to certain channels, is default selected. The intensity can't be changed until beast mode is deselected and you click on the master button. Acclimation mode is better as a default as it starts at low intensity, and I'd still like to see an intensity button versus having to figure out what the master button is for. Now when I change my looking lens to Reef Junkie mode, the app is your friend as you can adjust the UV, blue, and broad daylight channels to create the lighting effect that you want. Now you're limited to 6 time points throughout the day plus a moonlight. In my opinion, that's fine as you don't need tons of time points. Just because you could do something doesn't mean that it's really going to make a difference in your reef. There is a gradual and step progression feature, and I can't see using the step feature as part of the nice things about LEDs is that you can gradually change their settings versus the on or off settings like halides or RT5s. I'd still like to see the default Kelvin settings to keep the spectrums predictable, as I've yet to meet even a diehard reef junkie who could tell me if this spectrum is better than this one or this one just by looking at the graph.
My concern with the lack of Kelvin presets and an easy-to-use intensity setting is that the uninformed user is either going to run with the default settings, which is likely going to be way too much light for their tank, or they're going to get in there and they're going to crank up the UVs, crank up the blues, because they're going to look at their tank and go, ooh, wow, that looks really good. I'll just run with that. Then they're going to wonder why their corals are struggling because it's likely the wrong spectrum for their tank. Now, I'm not saying don't buy the light. I'm saying be an informed user and use the acclimation setting. Resist the temptation just to say F it and run with the mixed reef setting. Go with the acclimation setting. Start low, like 20%. Leave it for a week, see how your tank does, and then go up no more than 5% a week. It's much easier to dial up the light than have too much light with the wrong spectrum and then have to deal with issues in your tank. So what's my take on the Illumagic X4 at this point? First, look, this is a capable LED light. I don't have any concerns that it will grow coral and you can have success with this light. Yes, I would like to have some software changes with the user interface so we can have preset Kelvin and easy to use intensity settings so that the new intermediate and uninformed user who doesn't know what they don't know doesn't just get in there and use a default that might not be appropriate for their tank. And if you're a reef junkie, you're a power user, you're a nerd like me, you want to get in there and fiddle all the time, the app lets you do that as it is at this point. Now, if you do purchase this light, keep this in mind. As with the making of this video, when you go to the support button on their website, it has you fill out a form for technical support. However, if you dig into the product info, there's actually a 24/7 text chat number. Now that might change, so if you're watching this video and you need support, certainly fill out the form, but dig a little deeper for that text chat number for potentially faster and easier to use tech support. All right, I'm gonna go put this light over my tank, take some par readings. I wanna see what the light is like. Do we get a flat light out of it, even though we had those clusters of LEDs? I'll go fiddle with that, run it for a while, and then I'll report back to you. I'm Mark Callahan, Mr. Saltwater Tank, coming to you on behalf of SaltwaterAquarium.com. Until next time, enjoy your tanks. Let's go nerd out with a light.